Off the Pacific coast of the USA, a ship begins to sink. The crew cling on. Help won't be coming. Because sinking is exactly what this ship was built to do. Based off the coast of San Diego, California, this is Flip, a 108-meter-long research platform that turns 90 degrees so that around 90 meters of its length is underwater.
Like all ships, it's essentially a long tube, but one end of it is not at all intended for any habitation. It's just ballast tanks. So once they get it in location, they start to flood those tanks, and the ship gradually sinks at one end. The other end is full of air and buoyant, and ultimately it becomes a vertical pole in the water.
In the 1960s, Scripps Institution of Oceanography and the Navy wanted to devise a research vessel to study submarine acoustics.
They were trying to see how precisely sound propagated in the ocean. People in submarines would see sound coming from a certain direction, and they would find that the ship that was making the sound wasn't in that direction at all. It was in a different direction. And they realized what was going on underwater was a lot like a mirage, and people wanted to quantify how big that effect was. And so an experiment was designed that used a lot of acoustic receivers, a source, computers, recorders, and other such things.
They couldn't just launch a ship bristling with acoustic receivers. Regular boats bob up and down with the rise and fall of waves, which isn't ideal for acoustic research.
Work from a ship that was rolling on the surface of the ocean was very difficult to make precise measurements down in the interior, given how violent the surface was. And at that time, there were a core of people who had been through World War II in submarines and knew that you could go down beneath the waves and it would be calm. And the trick was to make a platform that accessed that calmness of the interior of the sea.
Flip is designed to heave up and down at a natural period which is longer than the longest swell. Consequently, she barely moves with waves, only 3 inches in a 30-foot sea.
That's a physicist's way of saying it doesn't bob up and down with every wave, so it only rises 3 inches even in a 30-footer. The crew quarters on board Flip need to work in horizontal and vertical positions. Some solutions are ingeniously technical. Some are a little more obvious.
Prior to flipping, there's a whole series of things that have to be done. Anything that is loose like this, not bolted down, the tables and so on, get moved to what you call the lower corner of each compartment. That's a corner that's going to be on the downside when you're in either position.
Walking around the ship is like being in a surrealist painting. Shower drains are on the wall. Steps and railings outside shoot off in multiple directions.
Yeah, well, this is the captain's cabin. The bunks are on tracks and they pivot so that they're running what now would be vertically so that the crew can sleep in them when Flip is in its vertical position.
During the flip, everyone stands out on deck.
Captain will flood the ship slowly down, and you start out holding on for dear life in the waves as the ship rolls, and as it slowly does its flipping, you end up working so that you're sitting like this, enjoying the view, looking out over the water, 15 or 20 meters above the sea, when you started right off, right down pretty much at water level, looking at the waves eyeball to eyeball.
Originally designed for a one-off project more than 50 years ago, today Flip continues to serve scientists who take advantage of its unique perspectives.
The ability to go out to sea and just watch the ocean without having to hang on, and even in very rough weather, is completely unique even today. And that was just a joy. It allowed us to do things that you could not think of doing on a regular ship even today.
But sinking 90 meters is just scratching the surface.